In this review, I want to trace the effect, social developments of the middle class during this time period, because we tend to ignore them during the Industrial Revolution. We think of the workers, we think of the factories. We don't think much in terms of the social developments of the middle class during this time period. But as I've broken it down here, I want to try and take you through some developments of the middle class during this time period. First, in the area of jobs, the Industrial Revolution was just as productive, just as important in terms of growing opportunities for the middle class as it was the working class. Because for every factory that was built that opened up jobs for the working class, a number of middle class people would be needed as well. For every factory, you would need managers and overseers. For every factory, you would need, for companies, you would need lawyers, you would need bankers. Any number of the professions of the middle class gain growth during the Industrial Revolution because they're needed as well. Additionally, this massive economic increase also increases the wealth of the middle class. Their society is more productive, they are gaining more wealth, and this blends into the second element, namely, as they move to cities for these new jobs, just as much as the working class, they are able to afford new homes of their own. And the wealth that the middle class is able to produce allows them to have a distinctly different home life than a lot of people have had in human history. Namely, they were able to acquire, say, single-family homes. They allowed them to build an area in which their children were able to be raised, they could raise their families, and again, this is due to the wealth and productivity of the Industrial Revolution. There's even glimmers of them trying to live like kings or live like the aristocrats. They couldn't afford, say, country estates or anything like that, but the middle class could, for example, hire domestic servants, lower class people who would come and take care of their home that they now afforded. And all of this starts to blend into a middle-class sense of self. Namely, it's a sense of self of distinction. Namely, the middle class starts to define themselves as different from those they see around them in the cities of the Industrial Revolution. Namely, they are the ones who have family homes. They don't live in crowded tenements like the working class. They have a home life for their children, whereas the working class have to send their children off to factories. They have families that are healthy and not struggling with disease or dirtiness as working class families are. And so the middle class really starts to gain a separate sense of self, defining themselves differently from the working class of this period. But another development in the middle class during this time period I want to draw out and help you understand. It's during the Industrial Revolution that you get a real division between home and work. Now, we don't tend to think of this as anything particularly groundbreaking. If I tell you, hey, I get up in the morning and I leave my home and I go to work, you'd probably say, well, that's just fine and dandy. That's what everyone does. Well, not always. Remember, the cottage industry was a chance to build a business or have sort of industrial production within your home. It's only during the Industrial Revolution, where you have factories, where you have places defined as, if you will, work, that starts to separate them from the home. So you get this division between home and work life. You leave your home to go to work, and then after work you go home. So that's a sense of the transformative effect of the Industrial Revolution. But it goes further, and this is why I talk about the cult of domesticity, something that really starts to solidify in the middle class during this time period. Because this division between home and work extends from just occupation and where you live to something much deeper. Work becomes associated with the realm of men, and by extension, so does all of what is known as the public sphere. Men would be involved in politics, men would be involved in religion, men would be involved in all of these areas of life that were public, in the public sphere. They were going to be the ones who were the military leaders, the politicians, the voters, and everything else. So what is the realm or role for women? Well, it was just as equally defined. Their sphere was in the home. They had a private sphere. Their job was to stay at home, raise the children, and this dividing line between the two should not be crossed. Women had their role in the private sphere. They were there to raise the children. Men had their public sphere. This is why, and this idea of separate spheres that defined how men and women should interact and how men and women should live their lives really becomes solidified during the Victorian period. And this is why some of the social tensions of the period really grow in the aftermath of this, as you have suffragettes and you have others trying to push for their own rights, trying to push for their own privileges. And as far as the middle-class men were concerned, this is an affront. This division of life, this division of separate spheres, that seems normal, that seems regular, that seems, well, how life just is. And what you should see in this is all an outgrowth of the Industrial Revolution. You can only have this sense of home life, this sense of gender divisions, if you're fully complete, fully done with, if you will, dividing life among home and work, if you're having the economic productivity of the Industrial Revolution. And so this is just one of many social changes that really kicks off because of the Industrial Revolution.